happiness, sadness, anger, anxiety. These are all things that we feel. But what does it really mean to feel? So, what is really happening in our bodies and our brains when we get excited, when we feel happy? How do we really know what the feeling of giddy really is? What is the science of feeling? Well, there are 7 basic human emotions: anger, fear, contempt, disgust, joy, sadness, and surprise. Now, the combinations of these are what produce the emotions we feel, because as you can see, it can be separated far more precisely. Nowadays, we realize that all of these things are connected with the different kinds of hormones that we feel, but we used to have very different views. The physician Hippocrates brought up the 4 temperaments, which are choleric, an angry temperament; melancholic, a sad temperament; sanguine, a clever kind of mischievous temperament; and phlegmatic, which is a calm, happier temperament, of people who tend to live very happy lives. Because of the ancient Greeks' association of everything with the 4 elements, as you can see, the 4 temperaments connect with these. The choleric is connected with fire, the melancholic with earth, the sanguine with air, and the phlegmatic with water. Now, although these are actually more of personality studies instead of emotions, Hippocrates, with his 4 temperaments, is the man who started our study into human emotions. Then Darwin came into the conversation. He explained in his book, Expressions of Man and Animals, that the emotion was an evolutionary survival technique because emotions allow us to communicate without using words, because we get to use things like body language that are shown by our emotions to communicate more easily. But he also pointed out that animals use the same communication with emotion. Several studies have actually shown that animals possess emotions, but don't only possess, but also control their emotions. Studies have shown that when an owner leaves their dog, the dog actually becomes physically depressed. But also, this can also be seen as when a dog experiences several difficulties, like, say, an owner dying, they are depressed for a very long time, but then they also learn to move on, like humans. There are several other studies that show that animals feel emotions, but go ahead and look down below for a link, and that will show you more studies that have been done on animals to show emotion. So, now we know that emotions are caused by hormones that fire in the brain and our several glands throughout the body, but that doesn't explain why we feel butterflies in the stomach and why we feel love in our hearts. So why do we? Alright, well, butterflies in the stomach is caused by when the hormones in our brain realize that there is a danger, that there's a reason to be nervous. We pull our blood from our vital organs into our extremities, because our body realizes that we need blood to power our muscles in case of a danger. So, as blood gets pulled away from our stomach, it gets a tingly sensation as it loses feeling that we call butterflies in the stomach. Love in the heart deals with more how the blood is getting throughout the body than where it's actually going. As we want to push towards going into a relationship with somebody, our body releases hormones that cause the heart to beat faster in case of nervousness, or even slower when we're extremely comfortable with who we're around, harder or softer. It depends on how we're feeling with the person that we're with. And we feel that difference. We can feel our heart racing when we're nervous around somebody, or slowing down when we're extremely comfortable around them. So that's really how we feel love in our hearts. One of the hormones that affects us is serotonin, the hormone of happiness. But also, the lack of serotonin causes sadness. But there are several other hormones that play effect onto our bodies, like dopamine. the hormone of pleasure. It's often related to narcotics like heroin and cocaine, but it can actually be released just when we're doing something that we enjoy doing. It's also been studied, but not conclusively proven, that dopamine is the major communicator between the brain and the immune system. So, studies have thought that perhaps by being happy, releasing more dopamine, we could actually have a chance of reducing our chances of getting ill. Oxytocin is the hormone of love. It's released when we're with somebody that we care a lot about. It's released when we hold hands, when we hug, when we kiss, when we're involved in other love-related activities, and it's even released during childbirth. It makes us happier, and it makes us release less negative hormones, and eventually it actually makes us live longer. Anger is a completely different thing. It's our body realizing that there's a threat and we have to fight back with it. But so our body has to override the logic phase in our brains so that we can fight back without thinking. And because we're overriding our logic phase, it actually makes us do some pretty ridiculous things, like hurt people and say things that we don't actually mean, which never ends up being a very good situation. But in the end, hormones will increase, decrease, and remain the same over the years of our lives. Obviously, teenagers get a huge bump in hormones during puberty, and as our lives continue, females will have menopause and males will have andropause, a decrease in hormones. Hormones affect the way that we feel, the way that we live our lives. They affect the way that we feel love and friendship and family. So, why bother being a non-emotive stoic and start feeling today? Thank you. And you've just been scienced.